What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's Apple TV Plus original series review of Mr. Corman, episodes 1 and 2. This series, of course, is created by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of these videos, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below on any video that you watch, including this one. So, episodes 1 and 2 of Mr. Corman are called Don't Panic, and of course, Good Luck. They're episodes that kind of introduce us to the world that is Mr. Corman, which, like I said, is created by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He actually plays the main character and is a director in the series, and the character's name is Josh Corman. And what this series, at least in the first 2 episodes, is dealing with is the nature of who Josh Corman is, how he views himself in the world, and the kind of nature of the midlife crisis, because this is a show about midlife crisis, apparently, that is involving and enveloping who he is. So, for instance, in the first episode, we are introduced to him as a school teacher. We see him kind of down on his luck. He's kind of in that depressed mood. He does a situation where he starts talking about Sacagawea and Lewis and Clark and how she was a tour guide or guide of some sort, and a young female student like questions him. He's like, wouldn't she just be a tour guide? Why do you have to say she's a female? And he doesn't really know how to answer that. It's a really kind of interesting kind of observation on the way of the world today and the PC nature of everything. You know, we see him with his roommate, who's played by Arturo Castro, who is an individual that is a loose of life. He's more of an interesting, upbeat type character. But when you see him with, of course, Josh Corman, there's just like this really depressing nature to his character. To like talking about trying to go on, go out to eat or go out to clubs and find women or just play video games. And in the process, he just doesn't know what he wants to do. He doesn't know how to handle anything. He's always on his phone. He's constantly depressed. And then he gets a call from his mother, who's really drunk, who's played by Debra. And they have a existential crisis conversation. And basically, the whole first episode is just him we're seeing the light, we're seeing the dark, we're seeing the depressing, and of course, the mental state of this individual. Because at some point, when he leaves his mother, he goes to a club and he orders a drink, but all he's drinking is club soda. There's a young girl that is very attracted to him. They have a conversation about the state of the world. He tells about like what he does and so on and so forth. They go back to her apartment. They are starting to have sex, and everything goes wrong for him. He starts to have like his blockage of mind and stuff like that. And she's like, we don't have to have sex. We can just sit here and talk. Kind of learn from each other, start learning about each other. And because of the nature of who he is and who Joseph Gordon-Levitt has portrayed him as, he really kind of mucks up the situation. She kind of goes at him for being a jerk and kind of a douchebag and stuff like that. And at some point he says something to her where she punches him, and then kind of a dream sequence happens, which is very much a Joseph Gordon-Levitt hit record type of situation where it's very fanciful. It's him and his kind of logical mind. We don't see him get hit, but we see him get like punched out a window. And then we see him like come back, and everything that is happening to him is just showing, like they said, the midlife crisis. And that's what the first episode, like I said, is dealing with. We're dealing with a character who's going to have some kind of push forward as the series moves along. His character is going to get more developed, but we're just seeing the early natures as these series kind of do. And then it ends with him going into his studio to record some music. And if you know anything about Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his hit record stuff, he's very much into a very interesting look into the music scene, the kind of LA type of material, and you really kind of get a sense through the score and the music that's played. I think it's either this one or the second episode, the music starts playing backwards, which is really interesting. So I thought that was kind of cool. But it's just, we see all the setup and all the pieces start falling into place. We start seeing a couple of people that we're going to recognize throughout probably into the entire series. We see who Josh Corman is, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character. And of course, we're going to see how Joseph Gordon-Levitt pertains himself when he becomes, as the writer and director and so on and so forth. And so episode 2, which is called Don't Panic, is exactly the opposite of that. We see, of course, Joseph Gordon-Levitt panicking. There's a point in the episode where like a big comet or big meteorite is coming towards him, which is kind of a look into his psyche of how much stress he's starting to put on himself. Once again, that midlife crisis is in effect. And I think he's going to have these for a couple episodes, from what I believe, to set up his whole kind of ideology of who he is and how somebody's going to change him to make him a little bit better. We're going to see that kind of, kind of change, or that 360 or 180 motion of his character. But we just see him kind of going through the motions again. We see him trying to find a doctor because he can't breathe, because, you know, if you're under a lot of stress or you have a panic attack, you can't breathe and stuff starts, you know, sweating, you feel like you're having a heart attack. We see him talking to his mom, and he tells her about the situation with the girl, and that doesn't go very well. And his friend tries to calm him down with putting a blanket over him. And his friend Arturo, the Arturo Castro character, is a lot of fun for an early role character, because we're starting to see a setup of just how absurd and obscene his character is. He's like that, you know, kind of douchey character in a lot of ways. But once again, we like see him in his mental state. We see him trying to talk to people. He's yelling at the insurance people. He's yelling at the doctors. They're telling him to stop. You know, he finds out that his dad is like got a credit card in his name. He spent all this money, and we see kind of like his past with his, I believe it's going to be his like girlfriend or something like that, or his ex-girlfriend, and everything just starts kind of, you know, slowly eking out of his brain. We're starting to see his mental state in this episode that is much more pushed out from the first episode. We see, like I said, the comments, stuff like that, which is really interesting. And then it gets to like the very end of the episode, and we get to a point where he ends up at like I want to say a breathing seminar of some sort, where people are under a lot of stress and pressure and so on and whatnot. And so he goes in there, and the guy who's running the class is kind of a douchebag when people are trying to explain everything. And there's a really funny scene with his character where he basically he's talking to the woman at the door, and he's like, how much should I pay? And she's like, I don't know, whatever. And he hands her like a 20, and she's like, do you want any change back? He's like, I'm not sure, because he doesn't know what he's doing. His mental state is just all over the place. And he goes in the room. He gets like he almost gets kind of lashed out at by the guy who's running the breathing class. But they decide they're going to do a breathing exercise. So they lay back and they're breathing and they're letting, you know, like to keep them calm and stuff like that. And he looks over to this old woman. He sees that she's crying. Everything in her mind is starting to come out through this breathing exercise. And he lays his hand over, which I don't know if he's fantasizing about this or whatnot, but he lays his hand over, and she puts her hand on his. And there's like this moment of calmness for him, which I think is kind of telling that he needs someone to kind of keep him, I want to say, under control, keep him in line. And he's going to find that person, I believe, throughout the week as the season moves along. But like I said, the first two episodes are really telling that Joseph Gordon-Levitt either once again had some kind of midlife crisis, because now he's like 40 years old, but maybe he is trying to portray everyone who, you know, lived in like a cocoon basically for the pandemic, that is dealing with a lot of stress, trying to find a new job or trying to just get back into the new life, dealing with everything that the government is dealing with. There's a point where he, you know, looks at a video on his phone about climate change. And it's really kind of telling that he is just kind of showing all of us, or most of us, how difficult it is for when we get into really stressful situations, or when we get into difficult, you know, concepts of just living in a world where it just completely changed in a single year. And it's going to be a pretty interesting, at least first season for this series and what Joseph Gordon-Levitt is trying to do. But I loved the first two episodes. I would give them A's, or, you know, 8 out of 10s or 9 out of 10s or whatever, because they just really kind of set up a really interesting concept that, even though it's dark and depressing and it deals with like the midlife crisis stuff, at least it has the audacity to do it in a really kind of fun, energetic, and kind of cool way. So, but like I said, for the first two episodes, which are Good Luck and Don't Panic, definitely give it a shot. I think you'll be impressed with what Joseph Gordon-Levitt is able to do. Once again, I think we found, at least to me personally, I think we found another show similar like Ted Lasso on the Apple TV Plus network that really is showing the strengths of what Apple TV Plus is wanting to do. So at this point, I'm really excited to see where this goes. We'll see in the next few weeks, you know, week by week. But for the first two episodes, I think this is a pretty good start. So, but with that said, that is going to be my take on episodes 1 and 2, which are Good Luck and Don't Panic of Mr. Corman. The comments below, what do you think of the first episodes? If you watched it, or are you going to watch it? All that good stuff. Otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button and join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.